People build armatures out of a whole variety of things. Foam, wood, metal, sculpture wire, and in our case, we're going to start out with tinfoil. We're going to create a head shape with our tinfoil by kind of just balling it up and kind of tucking it under. You don't have to squish up your tinfoil super tight. You just want to get kind of a basic egg shape in your head. Kind of egg shaped from the front. And then you want it to have that sort of extra bulk in the back of the skull, like a head naturally would have. And then once you have your basic head shape, you're going to create the neck. Also by kind of just rolling the tinfoil into itself. We just have this sort of long cylinder happening here for the neck. An important thing to remember while you're creating this portion of it, especially, well, the whole thing really, but especially the neck, is that when you add clay to the head portion here and the neck as well, it's going to bulk it out, and you're going to end up with significantly more width and length to the head, which will in effect visually shorten the neck. So in order to ensure that your neck is long enough, you want to make sure that you create your armature neck extra long. If it ends up being too long in your sculpture, that's fine. You can just add a little bit more of the shoulders. In a bust, you want to add some shoulders anyway because a completely cut off head and neck just looks weird. So once I have those basic shapes in there, I'm going to glue them together. You can always take a piece of wire and you can attach it to the head here and into the neck here, or you could probably even tape it if you wanted to, but for me it's just easier in this instance to go ahead and use just some hot glue and basically get it stuck together. It's totally fine if your tinfoil is rough. In fact, you want it to be rough, because that will give the clay something to hold on to. If it was too smooth, you would end up with the clay slipping off of it. So my head has become a little bit deformed since I applied it, and that's okay. As long as you still have just that basic shape of the head, it's not a problem. You can always correct the shape with the clay. I'm going to glue my armature down to the base here. People very often use a wood base to attach their armature to, but for our purposes, just a foam core base will be fine. And I have the sculpture wire here, which I'm going to take probably about 1.5 feet of length, maybe even 2 feet. And this sculpture wire is very soft and very flexible. And then I'm going to take it and wrap it around my armature. I just poked the end of it into part of the armature just to kind of give it something to grab onto. Might need to poke it in a little further. There we go. Now I'm just going to wrap it up and around. This will just provide a little extra stability for my armature here and a little bit of something for it to grab onto too. Just kind of help it all stay together. You don't try to create the shape of your details and your feature in your armature. So don't try to get the shape of a nose in here, or the shape of the mouth, or the inset portion of the eyes, or the ears, or anything. You want it to be a very simple, basic shape, because the problem you'll run into if you're trying to create your features with your armature is that you will end up locking yourself into a shape that you may decide later on you don't like. The nose is too wide in the armature, or the ears are badly placed, or the eyes go, they come too far out, or any number of other problems with it. So keeping it very simple allows you to create all of those extra things purely with the armature. Okay, now that we have the armature out, I have grabbed some chunks of clay from my box, and I'm keeping them moist with a damp paper towel. I've wrung the paper towel out pretty thoroughly so that it's not dripping anything, but it's just damp. If you have it too wet, you'll end up creating a slippery kind of sludge on the surface of your clay, and it will make it too wet to work with. But if you leave it completely uncovered, the problems that I have personally run into is that the clay will start to dry out, and you'll get these dry chips all over the place, and it becomes difficult to work with then, because then you're kind of fighting with the dryness. So just keeping a damp paper towel over your clay while you're working with it is really helpful. So when you start applying your clay, I would apply just a base coat of the clay around the bottom of the armature. The reason for this is that with the head, you're going to be kind of a little top heavy here, and you want a good structure on the bottom of your armature. To help stabilize the whole thing all together. So if you start adding clay at the very top, you could cause problems with it wanting to kind of tip over. So I'm just pulling pieces off, spreading, stretching. At this point, my clay is very soft, it's very wet, and I can just kind of apply it and move it around where I want it to go. I'm just going to cover the armature for now, just to get that initial undercoat of the clay that I can start working some basic shapes out of, but I'm also going to add to it a lot. Whenever I walk away from my sculpture for a while to take a break or to go get something else, I want to make sure that my clay stays wet and pliable. So I just take another damp paper towel and place it over it. It'd be a good idea to get one to go around the shoulders there as well, but I knew I was not going to be gone for very long. So as you can see, I have applied the clay to the armature in the general shape of a head and a neck, shoulders. I've added quite a bit of bulk to it in general, and just kind of gotten the basic shape in there.